She actually did it. This woman was officially out of her mind. She literally set my cabin ablaze. But before I get too deep into that insanity, let me tell you how we even got here in the first place, because trust me, it's a ride. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. I had just purchased this farm not too long ago. A buddy of mine was moving overseas and he practically begged me to take it off his hands. A good price, wide land, and most importantly, freedom. At least, that's what I thought. See, when I first moved in, I started noticing some weird behavior in the neighborhood. Folks weren't just being neighborly, they were reporting on each other, handing out warnings, acting like they were running some kind of dictatorship. That's when I learned the farm was somehow stuck inside the reach of an HOA. And not just any HOA. This one was run by Karen, their queen bee president, with a haircut sharp enough to slice bread and a personality meaner than a rattlesnake with a toothache. The first thing I did, because I value my sanity, was call my lawyer. I told him point blank, get me out of this circus. And after some digging, some paperwork, and one hefty signature, I was officially free. Or at least legally free. No more dues, no more silly regulations, no more dealing with Karen's barking voice at ungodly hours about my farm aesthetic. I was relieved. Thought I had cut ties clean. But apparently, Karen didn't think so. Just days after I received the letter saying I was out, I still got an envelope on my porch. An HOA fine. At first, I laughed. Honest mistake, right? But then another came, and another. At first, I tore them apart and shrugged it off, but deep down, I had a sinking feeling that this wasn't over. And when I realized those mistakes were deliberate, my gut was right. Karen had no intention of letting me go without a fight. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments what country or which city you're watching this story from. We'd love to know how far this story travels. I wasn't going to sit back and let Karen pretend like her imaginary empire still ruled over me. So I called my lawyer and told him flat out, I'm still getting their stupid letters. He barely flinched. He said it wasn't supposed to happen, not if I'd been legally removed. That's when I knew. I had to go straight to the source. So I drove over to their little HOA office, which looked more like a wannabe courthouse than anything. Cheap blinds, a flickering light bulb, and a bulletin board plastered with outdated rules that looked like they were copied from a prison manual. And there she was, Karen, sitting behind the desk like she was about to preside over a war tribunal. Her hair was sprayed into place so stiff it could probably stop a bullet. She didn't even look surprised when I walked in, like she had already rehearsed the scene in her head. I explained politely at first. Look, I've opted out. Here are the papers. Stop sending me bills. Karen tilted her head like a smug owl and said, You're still in the HOA. You don't leave unless I say so. I almost laughed right in her face. I pulled the legal documents from my folder, laid them on her desk, and tapped my finger on the lawyer's signature. She didn't even glance at them. Instead, she leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms. You think some piece of paper means you can just walk out of my community? Oh no. In fact, I should fine you extra for even trying. That's when my patience snapped. I told her in no uncertain terms what I thought about her HOA dictatorship. She didn't like my tone. Her eyes narrowed and she jabbed her finger at me. 1 week, she hissed. You and your lawyer better reverse this, or you'll regret it, I smirked. You can't do a damn thing to me, Karen. And I walked out, leaving her red-faced and shaking with rage behind that cluttered desk. Little did I know that woman wasn't bluffing. The week came and went, and just like I expected, Karen didn't get her way. What I didn't expect was the sheer level of obsession she was about to unleash. Every single day, I'd find new envelopes in my mailbox. She fined me $50 for unapproved tractor parking, $100 for unauthorized fence height, and then the kicker, a $700 fine for attempting to illegally opt out of her community. She was practically salivating to make an example out of me. At first, I treated it like a joke. I tore each one of her letters to shreds and tossed them into the fireplace. I figured eventually she'd get tired of wasting stamps. After all, the countdown she gave me had already expired. No smoke, no fire, just hot air, right? Wrong. One quiet afternoon, I headed to the market to grab some feed, nails, and a sack of potatoes. Took my time, browsed around, chatted with a neighbor, but when I pulled back into the dirt road leading to my farm, my stomach dropped. Smoke. thick, black smoke curling up into the sky. My heart pounded as I slammed the gas pedal. I turned the corner, and there it was, my cabin, my home, fully engulfed in flames. I yanked my truck onto the grass, barely putting it in park before I bolted out. The crackling of wood, the roar of fire swallowing everything I owned, it felt like a nightmare. And then I saw her, Karen, standing across the street with her arms folded like some twisted queen watching her victory. She was smiling, actually smiling as my cabin collapsed in on itself. I fumbled for my phone with shaking hands and called the fire department. Sirens wailed in the distance within minutes, trucks tearing down the dirt road. Neighbors gathered, some panicking, some staring in disbelief. But Karen, she didn't even flinch. She stood there calm, like she'd been waiting for this show all week. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about fines. Karen had declared war. Karen didn't even bother to deny it. In fact, when the firefighters finally got the blaze under control, she strutted closer like she was inspecting her handiwork. But the grin slid right off her face the moment I pointed to the security camera on the corner of my barn. That little lens had caught her red-handed, walking around my cabin with a red gas can, splashing gasoline like she was painting a mural. I pulled the footage up on my phone right there in the yard, and suddenly the crowd wasn't staring at me anymore. All eyes were on her. I dialed 911 while she sputtered excuses. By the time the sheriff rolled up, Karen was pacing like a caged animal. I handed over the video, clear as day. No arguments, no wiggle room. The deputies slapped handcuffs on her while the neighbors whispered and filmed with their phones. Karen went from smug tyrant to wild-eyed criminal in less than 5 minutes. But I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. My lawyer and I went into overdrive. I filed lawsuits stacked so high you'd think I was planning to build a tower out of them. She hadn't just torched my cabin, she endangered my livestock, trespassed on private property, and destroyed everything inside. The prosecutors didn't hesitate. Charges of arson, reckless endangerment, property damage, and trespassing piled up like a buffet plate. Court was brutal. Every time the footage played on the screen, Karen shrank a little more in her chair. Her attorney tried to spin it, claiming she was performing a controlled burn. The judge nearly laughed him out of the room. By the time sentencing came, the gavel came down hard, 5 years behind bars. And the humiliation didn't stop there. The mountain of legal fees buried her finances alive. Her home was foreclosed, her car repossessed, her reputation shredded. The same neighbors who once nodded politely now crossed the street to avoid her family. HOA queen turned pariah overnight. That was the last I ever heard from Karen. My farm still bears the scars of the fire, but her downfall, that's a scar she'll never shake off. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below. Also, if you really love this video and want to support the channel directly, you can hit that super thanks button below. It really helps us keep bringing you more HOA chaos.